If you have been waiting for good news about your visa case, today might just be the day that changes everything. For months, maybe even years, families have been sitting in limbo, watching their cases stall, wondering if the system had simply forgotten about them. But something is shifting right now. And if you have a case pending with USCIS or the National Visa Center, you need to hear what is happening because this movement could directly affect you and your family. Let me start by saying this. The immigration system in the United States has been one of the most frustrating and emotionally exhausting experiences for millions of families around the world. People have put their lives on hold. Children have grown up without one parent. Spouses have celebrated anniversaries over video calls. Parents have missed surgeries, funerals, graduations, and birthdays because a visa simply would not move. So, when real, tangible movement starts showing up across multiple categories and multiple agencies at the same time, it deserves serious attention, and that is exactly what we are going to talk about today. Let us begin with USCIS, the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services. For a long time, processing times at USCIS were a nightmare. We are talking about cases that were sitting for 2, 3, sometimes even 4 years without so much as a request for evidence. People were filing mandamus lawsuits just to get the agency to acknowledge their applications existed. But something has been changing inside USCIS over the past several months. The agency has been working through its backlog in a much more deliberate way than we have seen in a long time. Officers are being assigned to older cases. Interview waiver programs have helped move certain categories forward without requiring applicants to physically appear, which has dramatically increased the volume of cases being processed each month. If you have a pending I-130, I-485, or other family-based petition sitting at USCIS, the chances of seeing movement in your case have genuinely increased. People who filed years ago are now getting notices, biometrics appointments, and even green card approvals that they had almost given up on. This is real. This is not just hope. This is something we are seeing reflected in the AY's own published data and in the lived experiences of families who have been waiting. Now let us talk about the National Visa Center, which is a completely different part of the system but equally important. The NVC sits between USCIS and the actual embassy or consulate where your visa interview will happen. Once USCIS approves your petition, it gets transferred to NVC, and NVC is responsible for collecting your documents, reviewing your case, and eventually scheduling your interview at the appropriate consulate overseas. For a very long time, NVC was an absolute bottleneck. Cases would arrive at NVC and then sit there for months, sometimes over a year, without being documentarily qualified or sent to the consulate. That process of becoming documentarily qualified, meaning you have submitted all required documents and NVC has accepted them, is critical because you cannot get an interview scheduled until that step is done. But here is the exciting part. NVC has been clearing cases at a noticeably faster rate recently. Families who submitted their documents to NVC are now receiving documentarily complete status much faster than before. The agency appears to have addressed some of its internal processing delays, and the pipeline is moving. If you are at the NVC stage right now, this is the time to make sure your case is in order. Make sure all your documents are submitted correctly. Make sure you have not missed anything. Make sure your fees are paid, because when NVC starts moving quickly, you do not want to be the one who gets skipped because your file was incomplete. Let us now talk about visa bulletin movement, because this is where many family-based immigrants live and die when it comes to their timeline. The visa bulletin is published every single month by the State Department, and it determines which priority dates are currently eligible to move forward to the next step for family preference categories, especially F2A, which covers spouses and children of lawful permanent residents, F3, which covers married sons and daughters of U.S. citizens, and F4, which covers siblings of U.S. citizens. The movement in the visa bulletin has been the subject of intense scrutiny and hope, and right now there is reason to be cautiously optimistic. The final action dates for several categories have been advancing more consistently than they had been in prior years. This means people with earlier priority dates are finally becoming current, which is the magic word in immigration. When your priority date becomes current, it means you are eligible to move forward in the process. whether that means filing your adjustment of status application in the U.S. or attending your consulate interview abroad. For those of you who have been tracking the visa bulletin obsessively, you know what a big deal it is when a date moves even by a few weeks, so to see movement of several months in certain categories is genuinely meaningful. It is not a cure for the entire backlog, which is enormous, and will take many years to fully resolve, but it is forward momentum, and in immigration, forward momentum matters enormously. Now let us talk about something that affects a huge number of families, and does not always get enough attention, and that is consular processing. Many people assume that once their priority date becomes current and their NVC case is documentarily complete, the interview scheduling will happen quickly. The reality has been much messier than that. U.S. embassies and consulates around the world faced massive disruptions in recent years, and while most have resumed full operations, scheduling backlogs remained severe at many posts. But consulates have been grinding through those backlogs. Posts that were taking 18 months to 2 years to schedule interviews have started moving faster. Some posts that were considered extremely backlogged have begun scheduling applicants much more quickly, and families that had almost resigned themselves to an indefinite wait are now receiving interview appointment letters. For countries like the Philippines, Mexico, India, and several African nations where the demand for family-based visas is extremely high, the consular processing times are still longer than anyone would like. But even at these high-demand posts, there has been measurable improvement. Staff have been added, infrastructure has been updated, and there has been political will at the State Department level to address the consular backlog as a priority that matters. When leadership makes something a priority, resources follow, and results eventually appear. Let us also talk about what this means practically for people who are in the middle of the process right now. If you have a case pending at USCIS, the most important thing you can do right now is make sure your address is updated with the agency. More approvals are going out, and you do not want your approval notice or interview letter going to an old address. You should also make sure your attorney or representative has your current contact information if you are using legal help. Check the USCIS case status portal regularly. If your case is outside normal processing times, which you can verify on the USCIS website, you have the right to submit a case inquiry, and doing so is perfectly appropriate. If you are at the NVC stage, log into the Consular Electronic Application Center, which is known as CAC, and check your case status. Make sure your invoice ID number is linked to your case and that you have paid the required fees for both the affidavit of support and the immigrant visa application. Submit your documents as soon as you receive the checklist from NVC. Do not wait. Speed matters right now because the system is moving and you want to be ready when your number comes up. If you are already past NVC and waiting for a consulate interview, contact the consulate directly if you have not heard anything in a while. Many consulates have email addresses or online inquiry portals where you can ask about your appointment status. If your case is documentarily complete and you are in a current priority date, you should be in the queue for an interview, and you are entitled to ask where you stand. Now, here is something important that a lot of families overlook in all the excitement about movement. Being ready for your interview is just as critical as getting the appointment. When that interview letter arrives, you will typically have a set window to gather your documents, get your medical examination done, and prepare your case. Medical examinations must be done by an authorized civil surgeon or panel physician depending on whether you are in the U.S. or abroad, and these can take time to schedule. So, start that process early. Organize your civil documents. Make sure your birth certificates, marriage certificates, divorce decrees if applicable, police certificates, and financial documents are all in order and properly translated if they are in a language other than English. Gaps in your documentation can cause delays at the interview stage, even after everything else has gone smoothly. So, do not let paperwork be the thing that holds you back after waiting all this time. For families dealing with long separation, the emotional weight of this journey cannot be overstated. People have asked us, they have asked attorneys, they have asked anyone who would listen, when is this going to end? And the honest answer has always been complicated. But the honest answer right now is better than it has been in a long time. The system is not fixed. The backlogs have not disappeared overnight. There are still millions of people waiting, and some of them will continue to wait for years. But the direction of travel has changed. Things are moving. Cases are advancing. Families are reuniting. We have heard from people who waited 8 years for their green card and finally held it in their hands. We have heard from spouses who spent years apart and are now waking up in the same house every morning. We have heard from parents who are finally able to bring their adult children to the United States after filing petitions more than a decade ago. These are not outliers. These are the results of a system that, despite all its flaws and frustrations, is processing cases and producing outcomes for real families. The most important thing you can do right now, regardless of where you are in the process, is stay informed, stay organized, and stay engaged with your case. Immigration law is complex and it changes. Policy priorities shift. Processing times fluctuate. What was true 6 months ago may not be true today, and what is true today may look different 6 months from now. That is why it is so important to follow trusted sources of information, to work with qualified immigration attorneys when you need legal advice, and to keep yourself educated about the process. Do not rely on rumors in community groups. Do not trust people who promise to speed up your case for a fee. Do not pay notarios or unauthorized consultants to handle your immigration paperwork. These are real risks that real families fall into, and they can set your case back by years or even get your application denied. Use official government websites. Consult licensed attorneys. Watch channels and follow sources that explain the process accurately and honestly. The immigration journey is long. It is hard. It demands patience that most people did not know they had. But families are built on the kind of love that endures difficulty. And the families waiting in this system have proven that their love is exactly that strong. The good news is that right now, that love is being rewarded with movement, with appointments, with approvals, with reunions. Keep your documents ready. Keep your contact information updated. Keep checking your case status, and keep the faith, because the system is moving, and your case could be next. If this video helped you understand where things stand right now and what you need to do to stay ahead of the process, please make sure you subscribe to USA Move FUED. We cover everything happening with USCIS, NVC, the State Department, visa bulletins, consular processing, and immigration policy changes as they happen. Hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications, and join the community of families who are staying informed every single step of the way. Your journey matters, and we are here to walk it with you. Subscribe to USA Move Guide right now and never miss an update that could change your family's future.